Well, learning the difference between an incarnational and an attractional event is an outreach game changer. Hey, I'm Pastor Matt here with your Missionary Pathway Mission Insight. And today's insight is something I learned in the early years of our first church plant. The point in Knoxville, one of the big things we did was we were always out in the community. Why? Because we wanted to connect disconnected people to Jesus. And if you want to connect with disconnected people, you have to be out where disconnected people are going. But that's a different insight for a different time. But one of the ways we did that, we had all kinds of ways. We would do radio ads on a hard rock radio station. We would show up to events. We would host events. And I learned a ton about events in those early years, but one of the biggest lessons I learned was the difference between an attractional event and an incarnational event. So let's break that down. An attractional event is simply an event that you are putting on and you are inviting people to. Attractional events are an incredible opportunity to connect with and even bless your community. But attractional events tend to take more resources and more time to pull off. And the more resources and more time also equals more energy, because you're the one that's marketing the event. You're the one that's hosting the event. You're the one that's putting the event on. You're doing everything involved with that event, and then you're hoping people show up. That's a lot of an attractional event. But an attractional event is an incredible opportunity to bless the community. I remember we did attractional events like a cornhole tournament to raise money for a habitat house we were building, a 5K series that we did to help raise money for Second Harvest food for kids. These were all attractional events that people came out to that allowed us to connect with the community and even be a blessing to our community. But they involved a lot of work to make them happen. The other kind of event that you can connect with is an incarnational event. Incarnational events are events that are already going in the community that you participate in. A lot like you'll see vendors have booths at events, you can do that with your church. And we showed up to a lot of different events that were already going on in the community, and they were an incredible way to connect with people. And the cool thing about an incarnational event is you don't have to host it, you don't have to promote it. Oftentimes, all you have to do is pay a small fee and show up. But it's amazing to see what happens when you show up. Now, keep in mind though, with these events, you're not the one promoting it, you're not the one hosting it, so people aren't really coming there to see you. So what's the key goal of an incarnational event? Well, one of the key goals of an incarnational event should be to add value. How can you add value in these events to be able to connect with people? You could hand out water bottles at an event in the summer. Free water is a great way to connect with people, especially on a hot day. You know, we used to show up places and we would have these koozies. They're little things that you can put on your drink that make your drink cooler. And they had fun sayings on them like Jesus loves me and my tattoos, or come as you are, or all kinds of things that help promote the church. But they were all honestly just really great conversation starters. And so we would show up to these events and we would have these things, and they would allow us to create conversations and connection points with people. We did all kinds of events, from going to beer festivals to showing up to a wing fest that they still do this year. And in fact, 1 year after I left the church, they won that event, which is so crazy when you think about it, but awesome. And then of course we went out to the tattoo convention. These were incredible places to be able to connect with people. But when we showed up, we realized this was not our event that we were hosting, but this was an opportunity for us to connect with the community. And here's the cool thing about an incarnational event. An incarnational event does not take as much energy for you to put on. In fact, you can show up to several incarnational events, and we actually came up with a little bit of a ratio. So here's the ratio I came up with to help you understand. You could do 4 incarnational events in the time, energy, and resources it would take you to do 1 attractional event. Now, I'm not saying that incarnational events are better than attractional events. I'm saying there's different times to do those different styles of events. But when you realize that the time and effort it takes to do 4 incarnational events is the same as doing 1 attractional event, you can build an event schedule that will allow you to make a bigger impact in the community. You could even have it where you're doing 1 bigger attractional event alongside a few other incarnational events, and you won't overtax the people that are helping to pull those things off, and you'll create more connections in the community. So at the end of the day though, a really important thing to remember from events is this: you can't judge every event based off the next Sunday's attendance. Now, why is this so important? Because so often in the church, we're judging everything off the very next Sunday's attendance. And you know what? Sometimes it takes longer than a Sunday for events to make an impact. Number one, I think Sunday attendance is an okay gauge, but I don't think it should be our only gauge. If we're trying to bless our community and we host a 5K that raises a ton of money for a really great organization that's going to feed people, man, I'd say that's a huge win. Are some people going to come out to church because of that? But should Should you solely judge the success of that event on how many people showed up that next Sunday? I don't think so, because it's a chance for the church to be the church in the community. In the same sense, one time we had a couple that showed up to church. And I always ask the question, how'd you hear about The Point when I was at The Point? And you know what they said? They got a koozie at one of our beer festivals. But the beer festival they got a koozie at was the first beer festival we ever showed up to. They didn't come out to church till years later. They found the koozie in a drawer. They realized it was a church. They looked it up, and it just happened to be the moment they were waiting. They were looking for a church. So you know what? You can't judge every single event off the immediate response, but you just have to trust that when you're sharing the gospel and you're finding ways to connect with the community, God is going to always allow that to make some kind of impact. And let God be the one that determines what that impact needs to be. So hey, I hope this insight was helpful for you. If it was, take an opportunity, click like and subscribe, and share this out with somebody else that needs a mission insight like this. And of course, you can always follow us each Monday for a new mission insight to help you as you're seeking to share the gospel in the places you live, work, learn, and play. And if you'd like to learn how to do that more fully, definitely check out the resources we have at missionarypathway.org. So till next week, it was a joy hanging out with you right here on Mission Insights.